He's an author. I have an idea. He slept an hour. Call an ambulance. Fry an egg for me. I have an earache. I have an opinion. It's an old piano. I need an envelope. Show me an example. This is an old book. He's eating an apple. I am eating an apple. I want an MP3 player. Is there an elevator? It's an easy victory. This is an emergency. Are you an only child? She became an actress. She's eating an apple. That is an old camera. That is an old castle. Bob became an engineer. He must be an American. I had an asthma attack. It looks like an apple. Kate made an apple pie. I have an ache in my arm. I have an identical twin. 12 is an even number. What an interesting book. She has an eye for beauty. He had an accident at work. He has an eye for antiques. He turned up an hour later. I think he's an honest man. I will call you in an hour. That's an incredible story. He is an old friend of mine. He looks like an honest man. I don't need an explanation. I play tennis an hour a day. He is an experienced teacher. You seem to be an honest man. Bob must have had an accident. I burned my hand with an iron. I talked with her for an hour. I think she's an honest woman. There is an apple on the desk. Tom has an eye for modern art. Tom is an electrical engineer. Have you ever been to an opera? He came close to losing an eye. Mumps is an infectious disease. There is an apple on the table. They must have had an accident. An expert was called for advice. An old woman was burned to death. He will be here in half an hour. I've never flown in an airplane. She gave him an expensive watch. She hired him as an interpreter. There is an orange on the table. Have you ever cheated on an exam? She told me an interesting story. We adopted an alternative method. Don't you have an air conditioner? He speaks as if he were an expert. I met an old man near the station. She intended to become an actress. She made me wait for half an hour. There is an urgent need for money. There is an urgent need for water. He is afraid to fly in an airplane. He lacks the talent to be an actor. I am sure that he is an honest man. I have an idea she will come today. I'm afraid I have an upset stomach. The boy has an apple in his pocket. He didn't need to bring an umbrella. The long war came to an end at last. There is an exception to every rule. There is an urgent need for shelter. There's an outside chance of winning. He has to have an operation next week. There is an urgent need for donations. There is an urgent need for new ideas. There is an urgent need for revisions. I can't afford to buy an expensive car. I can't tell you what an honor this is. I had an enjoyable 2 weeks in London. There is an urgent need for more money. There is an urgent need for volunteers. Tom was sent on an errand to the store. Have you ever been stuck in an elevator? She didn't press him for an explanation. There is an urgent need for peace talks. He is an expert at solving such problems. I finished the work in less than an hour. I ran across an old friend near the bank. There is an urgent need for a new policy. There is an urgent need for a new system. There is an urgent need for blood donors. There is an urgent need for clean energy. There is an urgent need for more doctors. An 8-year-old car is almost worthless. I can't figure out how to upload an image. I consider him to be an excellent teacher. I didn't need to take an umbrella with me. I went up to the 5th floor in an elevator. There is an urgent need for social change. There was an accident at the intersection. You should have left half an hour earlier. Have you received an answer to your letter? Mary declined an invitation to the concert. She confronted him and demanded an apology. There is an urgent need for drinking water. There is an urgent need for food and water. I can't afford to buy such an expensive car. I got a letter from an old friend yesterday. There is an urgent need for blood donations. We will have an English test this afternoon. There is an urgent need for medical supplies. I ate a large pizza with a friend an hour ago. She expected him to buy her an expensive gift. She has an extremely expressive singing voice. There is an urgent need for good legal advice. Tom has been talking on the phone for an hour. An old man sat surrounded by his grandchildren. Bob charged $3 an hour for mowing lawns. I have to go shopping. I'll be back in an hour. It was very kind of you to lend me an umbrella. There is an urgent need for affordable housing. There is an urgent need for experienced pilots. There is an urgent need for qualified teachers. An old man was resting in the shade of the tree. I think it's time for us to come to an agreement. It wasn't necessary for him to bring an umbrella. There is an urgent need for better communication. I had some custard pudding for an afternoon snack. You should take an umbrella with you this morning. He gave an explanation about why he had been absent. In case of an emergency, get in touch with my agent. Take an umbrella with you in case it begins to rain. It was 3 weeks before she wrote an answer to Tom. Would you like to come in for an interview next week? I can't afford to eat in such an expensive restaurant. There is an urgent need for improved living conditions. We arrived at an agreement after 2 hours discussion. I never thought it'd be this hard to create an iPad app. There is an urgent need for them to update their system. Is there an English-Japanese dictionary on the bookshelf? She calls him every night and talks for at least an hour. She doesn't want him to buy an expensive engagement ring. It's about time we brought this party to an end, isn't it? Seen from a distance, the big rock looks like an old castle. The delay forced us to stay overnight in an expensive hotel. I heard that a South American camper was eaten by an anaconda. When I opened the door of the refrigerator, an apple fell out. It's likely to get cold tonight, so you may need an extra blanket. There is an urgent need for people to help clean up the environment. There is an urgent need for the local government to help the homeless. There is an urgent need for more people to donate their time and money. There is an urgent need for a new approach to dealing with this problem. He failed to see the stop sign at the intersection and hit an oncoming car. She hired him as an interpreter because she had heard that he was the best. If it looks like an apple and it tastes like an apple, it's probably an apple. I think it's very difficult for an Englishman to imitate a real American accent. I have to be honest. I was a little bit nervous the first time I had an MRI scan. I met an old man who says that he's never eaten at a restaurant in his whole life. There is an urgent need for understanding how climate change will affect our lives. English is quite often the language of choice when speaking to an international audience.